Hi everyone, lovely to be able to address you again this week. There's a quote ascribed to Disraeli, who once said, "Whilst other peoples say it's all very well in theory, but does it work in practice? We Jews say it's all very well in practice, but does it work in theory?" And this is relevant to the central mitzvah in the first of the two sedras that we read this week. Torah is this worldly, it's practical, it's suspicious of abstract high ideals unless they're translated into practice, concretized into the realm of halacha. And there certainly is a time to be practical rather than over-idealistic. For example, at the moment now, when we're desperate for communal life and tefillah, but tzibur with the minions resume, we need of course to be careful and ensure that we're also being practical and behaving in line with what will ensure our safety. And perhaps focusing on minyanim alone misses something. The shops seem to be full again of people. We see people around breaking the rules, socializing and going into each other's houses. And I'm not just here talking about distant Stamford Hill or even Golders Green, but in our very own Hendon. So practicality, being sure something works in practice, is certainly important. But there's also a time to be idealistic, to remember Har Sinai. And the Pasuk opens Parshat BeHar with the words Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe BeHar Sinai Lemer. This is a mitzvah commanded on Mount Sinai. And what is the mitzvah? The mitzvah of Shemitah, of Shavuos, that once every 7 years the farmer downs his tools, no farming, no harvesting, steps back from ownership of the land, and for that year dedicates himself not to physical pursuits of agriculture, but to spiritual pursuits. And the commentaries, Rashi, pick up, Ma inyan Shemitah eitzel Har Sinai. Why is this mitzvah of all mitzvahs ascribed to Har Sinai? All the mitzvahs were given on Mount Sinai. This led to an expression, the Jewish equivalent of what's that got to do with the price of cheese, why has one thing to do with another? Ma inyan Shemitah eitzel Har Sinai. When two seemingly irrelevant concepts are linked, we say Ma inyan eitzel Shemitah eitzel Har Sinai. But the concept behind this is that Shemitah is a law given to farmers. Being a farmer, as important as this is, can mean that one is absorbed the whole time in earthly pursuits and material pursuits. In many languages, farming is associated with being less than sophisticated, being a peasant, or in Mishnaic Hebrew and Amoretz, someone drawn after that which is material and physical, rather than the world of intellect and ideas. And as important as Yishuv Eretz Yisrael, as engaging with the land and producing real crops is, there's a danger in it. And therefore the Torah says, once every 7 years take a sabbatical. Don't just pursue that which is material, but remind ourselves of our ideals, our values. Har Sinai. You know, we only know someone if we know what they really want. And here there's a reflection. Those we love, our parents, our siblings, our children, our spouses, do we know them? How well do we know them? Do we know what they want? And perhaps more profoundly, do we know ourselves? How many paragraphs could we write about another? How much could we talk about what they are and what they stand for? But more painfully, how much could we write about ourselves? I don't mean stories, facts about what we do, where we've been on holiday, or what our job is, but what we stand for, what we believe, what we are, what we aspire to be. There's lots of voices going on inside ourselves, lots of external voices that sometimes distract ourselves. And we need to make sure that we spend time with ourselves to hear our own inner voice. We divide the mitzvahs into Bein Adam L'Mokum, our relationship to Hashem, Bein Adam L'Chaveiro, our relationship to others, but we sometimes forget the third category, Bein Adam L'Atzmo, our relationship to ourselves. Now what does this mean? How can we relate to ourselves? I can relate to others, but I am just myself. And the answer, of course, is that we're made up of many parts. We're spiritual beings, we're physical beings, we're intellectual beings, we're emotional beings. And sometimes these parts don't work together as well as they could. Sometimes they can pull us in different directions. And even in any one component of ourselves, we can sometimes be divided in how we think about something, what we feel about something, where our emotions are drawing us. And therefore, being Adam L'Atzmo, we need to work on ourselves and our own inner relationship, on hearing ourselves, on hearing what we're saying to ourselves and how we're speaking to ourselves. To make a list of our strengths and our weaknesses, our unique qualities, our goals, what we stand for. How do we think we can make a difference? Am I the person I want to be? Am I the person I once wanted to be? Am I the person I was? And in this time when we're perhaps a little more alone, not hearing that constant buzz of external ideas, we can take a sabbatical. We can make a date with ourselves. We can take a Shemitah. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe BeHar Sinai. The mitzvah of Shemitah is the unique mitzvah of a farmer once every 7 years, stepping out of the pace of life, dedicating himself or herself to spiritual pursuits. So let's take a Shemitah in this time. Enjoy being in our own company, get to know ourselves. Enjoy the meeting. Good luck, and Shabbat Shalom.